So already we're in the top five catchers for Scout the Statline, and each one of these guys, I would hope you've all heard of. If you haven't heard all of these top five guys, open your ears because these are all go get 'ems. In my opinion, Ross might have something to say about this gentleman right here. Number five is Dalton Rushing. Dalton Rushing is a catcher for the High A affiliate for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He is 22 years old. He was drafted in the second round, picked 40 overall out of Louisville. He did have a rough year. It wasn't what we were expecting of Dalton Rushing, but his 2023 numbers look as 290 at bats, 15 home runs. His average was 228, on base percentage of 404, slugged 452 with a on base plus slugging or 856. He struck out 93 times, walked 72 times, 18 doubles. I am an owner of Dalton Rushing. I'm a huge fan. I believe in the Midas touch by the Dodgers with their prospects. I'm a huge Rushings fan. Like, this is a go get him, but he did have an average this year that was not up to par. Still had the power numbers. Still had the power numbers. Still walked at a good percentage. Struck out a little too much. I love this guy. I love him.
Well, he's got a great name, Dalton. It's a really good start. Rushing
Roundhouse.
too, but
Yeah.
Dalton roundhouse to the face, and
Yep.
he's got massive hamstrings. Always got to mention that when we're talking about Dalton Rushing. This guy's legs are tree trunks. Um, he came into the season kind of a stat line scouting sort of darling, because
Yeah.
he had a really impressive debut. And I would take a different stance than you. You said he had a bad year. I don't think he had a bad year. His batting average did not end up being very good, but 410 OBP, 481 slugging percentage. He was hitting for power. He was getting on base. Those are good things. What is interesting to me is the splits with Dalton Rushing, and I'm missing some of the story in here, but he had a pretty poor finish. Actually, had a really strong September, which kind of stands out. But July and August for him were just abominable. You look at July and he only hit 179. Granted, he walked more than he struck out, so there was some promise in there. But then in August, he only hit 125. No power basically in those months, or very limited power. I wonder if there was something else going on, if he was playing hurt or what it might have been. But those 2 months basically killed his stat line for the season, because he was looking pretty solid up until that point. And that really tanked him in the rankings for Scout the Statline too. So he still ranks pretty highly, 25 overall. They love his on base capabilities, and that does look very strong. But the poor finish it opens up a lot of questions for me.
Yeah. My mind's been made up for it's been a year. This is a go get him for me. Um, and I'll take my lumps on that. I think he's got power for days, and he's got one heck of a plate discipline, in my opinion. Maybe a little bit of go ahead and swing the bat, pal. I can see, just in the numbers, 72 walks, 93 strikeouts. He's getting pitches that he could drive. Go get it.
Yeah. He's got a lot of power.
Yeah.
I do like the plate discipline. The strikeouts are maybe a little high, but like, he walks so much that it's
Yeah.
not an issue. I would probably touch on a topic that you usually cover, and that's blockers.
Yeah.
Dodgers currently have one of the best catchers in the league, Will Smith, and still somehow underrated. So
Yeah.
That's just the start, and they got all this other talent at the same position too, and some guys that we're even going to cover later on tonight. So he's got a lot of competition. That's going to be a challenge.
We might not be looking at a catcher at this point. If he wants to see the field, he might not be a catcher. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care how good he is. He just might not see the field as a catcher.
Quite possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can start talking about other teams, and then we go way off the rails. But yeah, for me, Dalton Rushing's a go get him. He has been for 2 years.
This one I want to see a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah.
He would have been more in that quadrant for me at the beginning of this season, and now I'm questioning it a little bit more. He gets a comp to Mitch Garver, who's a really good catcher with some pretty good power, and he has a 55 for his hit tool, thanks to those great on-base capabilities, and 65 for power. So there's some promise there. Projecting for 29 home runs per 600 plate appearances.
For sure. All right. We're in the top 5, so here we go. We are number 4. Number 4 is Moises Ballesteros, and he is in the AA affiliate for the Chicago Cubs. He's 5'7", 195 pounds. He's only 19 years old, and he is from Los Teques, Venezuela. I hope I pronounced that right. If I didn't, I apologize. This year, I'm just going to touch on this year's stats because I believe we touched on him last offseason as well. He had 421 at-bats this year. His average was 285, on-base percentage of 374, slugged 449, on-base plus slugging 823, 14 home runs, 27 doubles, 78 strikeouts, and 63 walks. He has basically shown us that we were correct about what he was doing last year. He just implemented that just a little bit more. He did touch AA this year, had 21 at bats, only batted 283 there. But once again, five hits and 21 at bats. We're not going to talk too much about that, but he did bat 300 at high A. Super excited for Ballesteros. Very excited to talk about Ballesteros.
Yep, I agree with your assessment pretty much across the board. One thing I would say about Ballesteros is that this seems like a safe profile to me.
Yeah.
There's very little chance that this guy doesn't find some kind of success.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he is a star at the next level is what I would question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not seeing star caliber data right now, but I am seeing really solid, productive stats. And he's only 19 years old, and he was promoted all the way to AA late in the season, and that was a surprise to most people. So you're talking about a teenager, still 19, that is getting to the higher levels of the minor leagues already, and that's pretty interesting. So the Cubs got to be excited about that. I mean, he's going to hit for some decent average. He's got pretty good plate discipline. He's got some power. Yeah, really solid all-around player, I think. But whether he's going to, be able to pierce that next level of like stardom level, that's the question that I have.
Sure.
I don't see that right now, but he does look pretty good.
What does he have a comp for on the Scout the Statline?
All right. Well, you let me know if you know this guy, because I do not. Gus Triandos.
No.
Does that ring a bell?
Well, it does not.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about Gus Triandos. Let's find out about him. All right. Gus Triandos was with the Baltimore Orioles, it looks like, for the majority of his career. Bounced around to a couple other teams, collected 14 wins above replacement throughout his career. just a very solid all around player. He's also a catcher, so it's fitting. He had a 30 home run season back in 1958.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, looking back on this, it looks like a fairly decent comp for what I'm seeing.
Okay. I would like to ask, how does he match up to Alejandro Kirk?
How would I compare the two?
How do they match up?
Are you're looking for my personal take on that?
Yeah, as far as minor leagues are concerned.
Um, well, Ballesteros has really good age level data, but Kirk was a much better hitter overall.
Did he have a lot more power?
Kirk,
Yeah,
no, no. Kirk was all
he
about.
didn't.
No, he had excellent plate discipline. I mean, we're talking about a guy that walked almost twice as much as he struck out when he was in the minor leagues. Really good bat. I would say, yeah. I mean, to me, his bat seems like when he was coming up a level above
Okay.
Ballesteros. What I'm seeing from Ballesteros right
Okay.
now, but Ballesteros is also a little more advanced, and he's still just 19. Kirk was not in Double A by that time, I don't believe.
Okay. For some reason I had that caught in my head that Alejandro Kirk and Ballesteros were very similar.
Well, okay, so yeah, Kirk didn't. He never even played in Double A. That's pretty wild. So he was 20 and he was in Single A and High A, and just an excellent bat. 56 walks, 39 strikeouts that season, and
Okay.
then COVID hit, so he missed an entire year in the minor leagues, and then he played in Triple A in 2021. So he went straight to Triple A. He skipped Double A, and he was a hitting machine until they promoted him.
I'm going to stick to that. I think that's a good comp.
I see a little more power in Ballesteros than Kirk showed early on, but less bat. That's how I
Okay.
would characterize it. Less bat, less OBP.
Okay. So is Ballesteros a go get him?
So I think he's going to be a solid player. I don't think he's going to be a great player right now. So whether he's a go get him or not is, you have to frame this in from a value perspective. The guys that we're going to talk about above him, especially two of these three guys, are going to come at extreme valuations, right? And if you don't want to pay those prices, this might be the guy that you want to take a deeper look at, because he's not going to hurt your team, could help you a little bit. He's going to come at a fraction of the cost. I would say that this is the guy to target if you've missed at least two of these three guys, maybe all three of them. One of the guys on here might also be one of those guys you want to target too. So
I actually completely agree with you. And I would like to link Ballesteros to Andrew Vaughn. That's in the majors right now. Like if you miss out on all the first basemen that are going in the first 5 rounds, Andrew Vaughn's the guy that you need to go get.
agreed. Yep.
Does that need to make a little bit of sense?
Yeah.
How I'm putting that together?
I could see that. I can see that completely.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, number 3. We're already in top 3, guys. Number 3 is Ethan Salas. Ethan Salas is with the Double-A affiliate with the San Diego Padres. He's 6'2", 285 pounds. He is only 17 years old, and he was born in Kissimmee, Florida. Kissimmee, Florida, and he's brothers to Jose Salas. And what Ethan Salas has done for the Padres in 254 at bats with 3 different teams in 2023, from Single A all the way to Double A, is a 248 average, 331 on base percentage, 421 slugging with a 752 on base plus slugging, 9 home runs, 13 doubles, 2 triples, 5 stolen bases, 75 strikeouts to 30 walks. I'm a huge fan of Ethan Salas. The numbers don't dictate exactly what I'm trying to say, but I think Ethan Salas is a freaking superstar.
Well, I think you kind of have to throw out his high A and double A numbers altogether if you want to kind of get an idea of the type of hitter he is. There's some things that I want to point out with Ethan Salas. Like, came in with insane pedigree, right? Insane pedigree. And he got to play in spring training this year. And he was holding his own he was 16 at the time. He was 16 years old. I want to emphasize that. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Against Major League.
He won't be 18 until the start of next year. We're talking about.
So this guy's a 17-year-old and doing some pretty incredible age level stuff, but he's a young 17. And I want to emphasize that too. Already very well developed for a kid that's 17 years old. Geez, I was like 140 pounds or something at that time, tiny. So he's very well developed, both as a professional and physically, at an early age, and really doing some things that we haven't seen for a long, long time as far as advancements. Now, the Padres might have pushed him too aggressively at the end of the season. They promoted him to high A, and then they boosted him right up to double A. So he got about 60 plate appearances there. That really kind of tanked his overall line. But when he was at single A, he hit 267 with a 350 OBP and a 487 slugging percentage. And I think that that's kind of the line that you could look at and extrapolate to professional, production. You could almost take that and be like, okay, when this kid is growing up, that's the baseline. Because you don't often see a 17-year-old at single A to begin with, right? Like, that's unusual, a young 17 especially. And he performed very strongly. Pushed up aggressively, numbers came down. The overall line at the end of the season doesn't look as impressive, only a 752 OPS. But the age level factoring here is off the charts, and that's why he's a top 10 prospect by Baseball America. That's why he's my my personal number one catching prospect. I have him higher than the next two guys, though I think there's at least one of them it's pretty debatable with. But I've said this a few times, we haven't seen this kind of advancement since Alex Rodriguez. Next year, I mean, he could be 18 years old and knocking on the door to the major leagues. He might get a cup of coffee at 18.
Yeah, he won't be 18 till June 1st.
I could be wrong on this, but I think Alex Rodriguez is the last player to debut as an 18-year-old.
Yeah, I can't confirm or deny that.
So I'm just throwing that out there. At least I don't know of anyone else. If anyone does, please leave a comment and let me know, because I'd be interested in looking into that. But yeah, I mean,
I do worry about blockers with the Padres. But
Campusano's playing really well for him, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that, and the Padres do some interesting things with trading and shuffling random players. I wouldn't be surprised to see a big veteran come into the Padres next year at catcher. But he's got an athletic build. He's 6'2", 185 pounds. He's sleek, for the lack of a better word. He doesn't have to play catcher.
Yeah, a couple things that I would say about that is one, if the bat is as good as it looks like it is, they probably don't want to keep him at catcher.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So he seems like a really good candidate to get moved off the position. I don't know what his position would be. Maybe the outfield, maybe left field or something like that. But they're going to want to get him playing every day, I would think. If he's carrying the stick that it looks like he's got, very likely we see him off of that position. And even so, let's say he doesn't change positions. I think he's just talented enough that they will make room for him.
Yep.
So he'll find a spot. That's my take.
Yeah. I think we're both on board on this one. Ethan Salas is go get him.
Go get him. Go get him. But he's not going to be cheap. I mean, this guy is not cheap anymore.
No.
A lot of places are regarding him as a top 10 prospect. You're going to have to pay top 10 prospect prices. So, But an easy endorsement. He's somebody you want.
If you wanted to talk an owner off the ledge, just look at his stats and be like, it was only a 248. I don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah. He's so overrated. Trade him to me. Every time.
Hey, Ethan Salas. All right. Our next one, and I think this is going to come as a surprise. It was a surprise to me. Our number 2 catcher at scoutthestatline.com is Thayron Lorenzo. Thayron Lorenzo is a catcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's 6'3", 195 pounds. I think they didn't measure him correctly because he's a monster. I think he's 6'6" and all of 240 pounds. I'm not going to lie to you. He's huge. But Thayron, throughout this year in 2023, he was at the single-A affiliate with the Dodgers, 345 at-bats. He averaged 272, on-base percentage of 400, slugged 562, on-base plus slugging 962 with 24 home runs, fellas. 2 stolen bases. His walks to strikeout, he had 70 walks, 112 strikeouts. Way too freaking high. But, man, he's impacting the ball. He's hitting the shit out of that ball. He had 24 doubles as well.
Yeah. Is it Thayron?
Thayron, I think.
Thayron, Lorenzo, whatever it is. Lorenzo is looking. Power is the calling card. And Scout the Statline is saying you need to pay attention to that power. It's not the only thing. The on-base capabilities are very intriguing. You're right that strikeout rate maybe teeters on the edge of being high.
Scary.
But he walks a lot. And yeah, they're projecting him for some of the best power in the minor leagues right now. So that's the interesting thing with Lorenzo is they're saying this guy is a power bat, and they give him a scout grade equivalency of 75 for power.
Have you seen some photos of this guy running around the field? He's not 6'3".
No, I can't say I have.
Not 6'3". I'm 6'3". This guy would be 4 inches taller than me.
Some of the best projections, I think, at Scout the Statline. This one's a huge surprise. I don't think that there's any way that he's better than Ethan Salas. The profile doesn't look quite as strong to me overall either, but you can't deny the power, and it's the Dodgers again.
Yep.
There's going to be issues with playing time, as there usually is with it. Dodgers prospects, it seems like.
He did all of this at 19. He just turned 20. So he'll be 20 all of next year, probably in Double-A.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that he starts out in High A, and maybe if he's still hitting the crap out of the ball, gets a promotion up to Double-A.
Well, it's tough, too, with all their other promotions. I mean, they're going to have to find a spot for him to be able to move up because they do have more catchers, more outfielders, more infielders that the Midas touch of the Dodgers. They just got a great farm, and they know how to push the right buttons.
Yeah, it's a crazy one.
Yep.
But this is one of those guys. So we were just talking about this with Ballesteros. If you can't get Ethan Salas, if you can't afford him, if you can't get this next guy we're going to talk about, who would be my number one target, priority target, if you can't, based on value and expected production, then Lorenzo is a pretty good avenue, I think. You know,
Oh yeah.
maybe a toss up between Lorenzo and Ballesteros, who I'd want to target in that scenario, where it's like I can't get these other two guys. You know, who am I going to look at adding? Well, this one's kind of sneaky. He doesn't have a lot of pedigree, not a lot of top 100 billing out there, so could be the way to go.
That's an interesting question. I'd like to present that to you. Who would you rather go? Would you rather do Ballesteros or Lorenzo?
I think Ballesteros is the safer looking profile to me. I'd probably go that direction, though I do think it's fairly close, and Lorenzo is probably the upside play.
And so that's where I'm sitting, especially with the older outlook of the catcher position, trying to get those cheap stats um, with the power numbers. Give me give me Lorenzo with the cheap power stats at the catcher position.
A lot of risk there. I think a
Yep.
lot more risk in his profile. If you were to tell me, and it's not a risk aversion that makes me say this, but if you were to say like pick one of those two guys, I'm going Ballesteros because I just think it's more likely he finds major league success.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I really do. I
All
do.
right. I can't believe
Okay.
we did it already.
Yeah, that was quick. We got through this way too quick. Maybe we should do first baseman tonight too. Just teasing. First place as our catcher position for Scout the Statline. And I don't know if you could really argue this. I think it would be fine if you had him as your number one catcher. I have a different one. We talked about Harry Ford earlier. But Samuel Basala, once again with the Orioles. The Orioles are loaded, guys. Okay. The Orioles are absolutely loaded. But Samuel Basalo with a double A affiliate with the Orioles. He's 19 years old. And he's a young 19. Like he just turned 19 August 13th. So he played the whole season at 18 years old. He's out of Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. And he had a couple of rookie in 2021 DSL, 2022 DSL. I had about 300 at bats there, but this year he had 419 at bats stateside, starting with single A, and he moved all the way up to double A. His stats over the season: 419 at bats, 313 average with a 402 on base percentage and a 551 slugging. That's on base plus slugging of a 953. That's 20 home runs, 26 doubles, 7 triples, and 12 stolen bases. There's not a whole lot that you can grab the old ice pick and start plugging holes in this one. Pretty tough. Pretty tough.
So if you're watching this player eval, pause it right now and go watch my episode of The Next Big Thing on Samuel Basallo instead, because it's probably going to cover everything that we're going to talk about right here. I'm just going to rehash the same stuff, and it's going to have a little video footage in it too. But let me just start out by saying this. Perhaps Slamuel is underrated by pretty much every organization out there. Because of a guy like Ethan Salas, they just think Ethan Salas is the bee's knees, but Samuel Basallo has the productive numbers. Let me shoot out some interesting factoids about Basallo that makes me really, really hot on this guy, and I would make him my number one target in the catching position. Target, as in, I think that this guy's value, future value, and where he's ranked currently by most major publications, there's a mismatch. I have him as a top 20 prospect overall. So I'm really high on this guy. But he moved up, starting at single A up to double A, as you mentioned, and his numbers actually improved every jump up. And that's insane. You don't get that too often. And I will have you know that he was the MVP of the Carolina League that he started at, where he actually performed better in his subsequent promotion. So really exciting stuff there. From a numbers perspective, the numbers are incredible, right? Across the board. I don't think stolen bases is going to factor into his future production very much. But I mean, he impacts the ball, hits with power, he gets on base, pretty good plate discipline. As you said, not a whole lot to chip at when it comes to Basayo. I think he's a guy you want to go get. Go get him right now. Turn this off and go get Samuel Basayo.
The elephant in the room on this one would be, where in the hell are you going to put him in the Orioles organization?
Oh, he's not
He
going to.
ain't playing catcher.
Yeah. And reportedly, he has a really good arm, and he's a pretty good defensive catcher. So they're going to have to find some use of that. Could be first base, could be in the outfield. I think he's shown enough athleticism to play in the outfield.
They're loaded in the outfield.
They are. I mean, it's going to be tough. First base might be a destination for him.
Yeah, Mountcastle. I know Mountcastle's numbers aren't insane or anything like that, but that's pretty goddamn good first baseman.
They're gonna have to find a spot for him.
It's tough. That's the only thing I'm saying is it's tough.
One other interesting tidbit about Samuel Basayo is it's not just Scout the Statline. I need to highlight this. He ranks as the number 2 overall hitter. So that's how high they view him. Because of the age level of factoring, because of the fact that he just smashed it as he moved higher. He was even number 1 for a while. Caminero recaptured that on the last day or something like that. So Basayo was really on a rocket ship, straight to the moon, as you like to say.
Past the moon, straight to Mars.
It's not just Scout the Statline, right? So
no, he's awesome.
One of the leaderboards that we have at Scout the Statline is the formulated consensus. I've talked about this a lot. That's a partnership with Pitcher Dig's Bags leaderboard, with Par's list, with Prospect Larceny formulated rankings, all these other formulated ranking systems that are out there. And you know who the number 1 prospect on that list is? Samuel Basayo. It's not just Scout the Statline. He ranks high according to every formulated system out there because he's 18 and he's smashing it. So you have to be aware of this guy and you want to go get him. He's a priority ad. Now I can't get him in our league because the owner is not going to move him at any price. But in most leagues, there's a mismatch. Perceived value versus real value. Go get him. Go get him.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, it's a go get him. I just, once again, I question where he's going to play. But who gives a shit, right? It's one of those things, who cares?
They'll find
you got to get that bat in your lineup.
Yeah, they'll find a spot for
it. And you mentioned his name, Junior Caminero. Where you put him? Who cares? You're going to have to put him in the lineup. We're going to talk about him very, very soon. But that's what we got, guys. We gave you beers. We gave you 10 great prospects at the catcher's position. I think we could probably do another video on catchers that we thought should have made the top 10 list. This is just by the model at scoutthestatline.com. Once again, this is not our personal opinions. It's pretty close, I think. I would add maybe 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, I would. I'd rearrange a few of them. There's a couple guys I would drop off. There's a couple guys I would add in, but it's not extreme.
No.
It's kind of interesting. You say these aren't our opinions. It's like the whole video is our opinions about these guys that we didn't formulate the opinion or the ranking opinion, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Top 5 would be pretty hard to argue.
You
could drop it.
I mean, Lorenzo. I have Salas number 1. I have Basayo number 2. Who do I have number 3? I might have Kyle Teal number 3.
You got to have Harry Ford in there.
Harry Ford's up there. Lorenzo. That's probably or Ballesteros maybe, and then Lorenzo.
I got Cartier up there still.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, go check out Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it these days, because my top 10 is listed on there. You can go find it. It's out there for the public. Blasted out there.
We mentioned this last year too. Once again, I want to bring last year up. The catcher position used to be a bore.
Yep.
I think we did this probably 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. Just kind of kidding around, trying to rank where they were. We might have done it for our hometown league, but it was a bore. Like, it was just like, who cares? Like, you threw your catchers in there, no big deal. And now it's like, this is legit. Catchers
are more. Yeah.
And obviously you have the Harry Davises going into the outfield, or that was the big one that popped into my brain.
We got
these guys are going to move off the position.
Yeah. Rushing maybe. I mean, we got a lot of guys on that we're presuming are going to move off the position.
Yeah, I was just talking about in recent years, a really high ranking profile that moved off the position. Harry Davis was the big one that popped into my head, but a lot of these guys are going to do it because their bats are so good that they don't want to be, the organization doesn't want to be sitting behind the plate. So when you go get one of these guys, start thinking that maybe it's going to be a first base, or it's going to be an outfield. A lot of these guys don't go to third, which I'm kind of surprised about. It must be an agility thing.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, usually it seems like first base or outfield is a destination.
Yeah.
Yeah. First base.
Yeah.
Common.
Which, I mean, let's get realistic. If Rutschman's bat is so crazy good and Basallo is that good a catcher, who knows? Maybe Rutschman goes to first. I'm just saying. He's a great framer, and he's probably the best catcher in the league. But who knows?
The rumor
they did it with Posey
that his game calling is top notch, and there's so many other things that he does that
they did it with Posey.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Rutschman's still pretty young, though.
So was Posey at the time.
All right, let's lock this thing up and have another beer.
Fine. Statliners, it was nice seeing you. I'm gonna crack another beer. Sit here and talk with my buddy Ross. We'll argue a little bit more off air. Super happy to see you guys. If you have anything to put down in the comments section, please do it. I know I can mess up here and there. Go ahead and throw shade at me. It's great. Really happy to be here with you guys, and I hope to do it again. Well, we're going to do it again next week. We're going to bring you first base next Tuesday.
Yep, I think that's the plan.
First base next Tuesday. See you guys.